Welcome back to the Hungaroring. This is Porsche Carrera Cup Benelux. This is the third round of the season. And we are taking on this 4.4 kilometre home of the Hungarian Grand Prix, of course, for another 30 minutes of racing plus an additional lap. It was a very interesting motor race. We had a red flag, of course, which did delay things slightly, but we still got our full race distance, and we also got our fifth different winner in 5 races. That man, Jaap van Lagen, claiming his first race win of the season, and with it, the lead in the championship standings. So Jaap van Lagen on the move, on the ascendancy. He was second in the points coming into this weekend, but with his first win, he has usurped this man, Robin Knudsen, at the top of the standings. Knudsen fell back to 4th place from second on the grid yesterday, and he'll be looking for better fortunes on Sunday. Worth noting, of course, that this grid is formed by the second fastest times from the Saturday qualifying session. It is broadly similar to the starting lineup that we had yesterday, though, in what was a fairly clean and concise qualifying session. No one really extended the limits too far. We did, however, have a couple of incidents during yesterday's race. There was a collision involving Jules Grau, Henri Tuamala, and that was took out 3 cars actually in total. Here's your grid though: Van Lagen and Knudsen, Porte Ruiz and Nick Ho on the second row of the grid, Milan Marchak and Niels Langeveld on row 3. Row 4 of the grid is going to be Domas Rodonis, the Lithuanian driver, alongside Sam Yongejan. From 8th again, he'll have some work to do. Alexander Ryman alongside Nikola Milkovic. Jules Grau alongside Mace Muller, who unfortunately got tagged into a spin yesterday. Alexandra Viteva in 13th place. Max Schlickenmeyer in 14th position. And then at the rear of the field, it is Tuamala and Kakala. Now, with that grid read, there is only 16 cars listed, and unfortunately, we have lost 1 car. That's Thomas Kangro. Kangro was the third party in the collision between Tuamala and Jules Grau yesterday, and it doesn't look like his car is fighting fit, unfortunately, for Sunday. So it will be 30 minutes plus 1 lap of racing. And for Jaap van Lagen, it's an opportunity to really put his stamp on this weekend. And you would be unwise to bet against it based on his qualifying form. He was 0.4 faster in terms of the very fastest laps of the session, which determined yesterday's grid. This lap, the second fastest lap, was over 0.3 faster than Knudsen alongside him. So he's been the quickest on 1 lap pace all weekend long, sorry. And he had the best race pace on Saturday evening as well. So I think it's a bold and brave individual that bets against Jaap van Lagen here. He's been on fabulous form this weekend for Team Race Art. He will be, provisionally speaking, on 97 points at this juncture. Knudsen alongside him on the front row of the grid, the former championship leader. He will be on 88, and Niels Langeveld in third in the standings will be on 76 points. Langeveld slightly closer to Knudsen as he finished third yesterday, and Knudsen finished in 4th. The driver that finished second, though, was a man having his very best race thus far in Porsche Carrera Cup Benelux. That was Frank Porte Ruiz, the Andorran racer, taking second place, his first podium of the season in Porsche Carrera Cup Benelux. Moving into GTs this year after a previous tenure in Formula 4 machinery, and he really is, round on round, ramping up, getting more and more impressive. Keep an eye on that 22 car, because he was the only driver to really test Jaap van Lagen yesterday. And he'll be lining up once again third on the grid and first of the drivers in the rookie classification. You'll see that he's got the kind of orange stickering on his headlights. He will have a little bit more local competition for that rookie win. He was, at points, the only rookie driver in the top 10 yesterday, but Milan Marczak for this race is starting 5th on the grid. He is also a rookie driver, so it's quite possible that Milan Marczak will be more of a factor in the rookie battle and indeed the battle for an overall podium. Yesterday, Porte Ruiz claimed second at the very first corner. Kind of muscled Robin Knudsen out coming out of turn 1. And he'll be looking to do much the same here, and frankly, the confidence build for Frank Porte Ruiz is really plain to see weekend on weekend so far this season, and one wouldn't be shocked if he was laser focused on maybe going one better today at the expense of Jaap van Lagen. Van Lagen, the old stager, the 48-year-old racer from the Netherlands, with such a rich history in Porsche Carrera Cup racing. We always thought he'd be a favourite this year. He's been massively consistent, and with that victory yesterday, he now has a P1 trophy to his name and the championship lead. Can anyone best him today on a weekend where he's looked like the class of the field? It's going to be a strong ask, a big ask for anyone to do so. There's the 96 car of Marczak. There is Langeveld, Radonis, Yongejan, who starts from 8th for a second day in a row. Yongejan, who won his first race in Carrera Cup Benelux at Zandvoort in wet conditions. Of course, after today's race, we will be at the mid-distance of the season. And that is a big milestone. Whoever leads the championship into that mid-stage can go with a lot of momentum going forward. Keep an eye on the rookie classification. We've already mentioned that under 24 drivers with limited Carrera Cup experience. Also keep an eye on the Pro-Ams. A couple of drivers in that category working from the back, owing to some dramas yesterday. The green flag waves, and the revs will rise at the start line. We wait for the lights to go out. They do. We're racing at the Hungaroring. Looks like a decent start once again from Jaap van Lagen, all very controlled, but he's not cutting across to the inside because Knudsen is right there alongside him. No repeat of yesterday for Van Lagen, not the same level of start, and Robin Knudsen moves up to the race lead for the first time this weekend. Others straggling wide a little bit there through the opening sequence of corners. Van Lagen now tries to go all the way around the outside, but it's not going to work there. You can do it at turn 2, but you need to be further alongside than that. Looks like Porte Ruiz has held on to 3rd position there. In 4th place, Niels Langeveld from 6th on the grid. He's made up some very good positions there. A nice forward momentum start for Niels Langeveld. Always feels good to pick up some places in the early doors. And I tell you what, Knudsen immediately under huge pressure from Jaap van Lagen. Yesterday we saw that NGT racing car of Knudsen wasn't really showing great race pace. He didn't have the pace to hold on to a podium position, dropped down to 4th place ultimately. And so now it's going to be a big question mark as to whether they've found something on that car overnight, found a little bit more speed, and whether he can hold on at the front. But for now, he is at the head of a very, very long train, and he's certainly feeling the pressure. He's feeling the need to go defensive. Van Lagen, Porte Ruiz, and Langeveld all there with him, and Van Lagen with a look there to the inside. There may have been the faintest exchange of paint there. And look at this. Porte Ruiz is alongside Jaap van Lagen. Isn't going to be able to hold on to the outside around turn 14. But I mentioned that I thought Porte Ruiz's confidence was only ramping up, and you can see it there with just how sharp that car looked. The start procedure is under investigation, we're being told, so we'll keep an eye on that, see whether that develops into any trouble for anybody. Nick Ho, meanwhile, going around the outside for 4th place there against Niels Langeveld. They almost touch. Jaap van Lagen isn't sure whether to go to the inside, to the outside. He's trying everything except burrowing under the leading car, as there's some contact there, as I think that was Milan Marchak getting onto the curbs around turn 2, just trying to find some space. Lots of gentle touches among the cars as everyone tries to fight for position. The whole field there separated by 5 seconds. 16 into 5 surely shouldn't go, but somehow the Porsche Carrera Cup Benelux field is managing some incredible close quarters racing in the early stages here. Further back in the field, Jules Grau has had a good start. He's up to 2nd in Pro-Am and on the tail of Jani Kakala. So the 39 car under pressure from Jules Grau. We'll keep an eye and see whether that evolves into an exchange for the Pro-Am lead. Meanwhile, Milan Marchak alongside Alexander Reimann here for 6th place. And it looks like the youngster from Red Ant Racing has made that work. And Reimann was speculating there with the idea of having a fire back. He made some unconventional overtake attempts yesterday. Not all of them paid off. Yongejan there in 8th position. He's not had the same kind of fiery getaway that he had last time. Look at Jaap van Lagen. He is really putting it to Robin Knudsen here. Knudsen drifting out wide. He doesn't want to give Van Lagen the inside line for the 2nd corner, but Van Lagen keeps his foot in it. He wants that inside line desperately. He's got dirty tyres now on the left side. Will the car turn in? It does. He hops across the curb. He leaves no space at all, and Knudsen is into the barrier. Van Lagen and Knudsen have collided, our top 2 in the championship coming together. And that is going to raise some eyebrows. And I'm sure it's going to be a discussion in the paddock, in the garages, and perhaps in race control. But Jaap van Lagen is now our race leader. The incident has been noted by race control, as one would expect. And now Jaap van Lagen has to worry about Frank Porte-Ruiz. Neither Van Lagen nor Knudsen seemed particularly willing to offer up excess space in the lead up to that collision. And unfortunately, it's boiled over. Safety car has been deployed. Let's get a look back at it. Van Lagen there just losing traction as well. Mid-corner, he was already kind of squeezing towards the outside. Then the rear started to let go. And unfortunately, Knudsen's car was in perfect position to be collateral. I'm not sure any party will be particularly happy with how that unfolded, except for Frank Porte-Ruiz, who now finds himself on the back of Jaap van Lagen with the safety car deployed. He will now have the opportunity to try and fire up against Van Lagen. The 65 car of Sam Yongejan there we see in 7th position. Our leader is the man who started on pole. He hasn't led the race from the off this time around. He didn't get the same level of start that he did 24 hours ago. He was able to cover off Knudsen into the first corner at the start of the first race, but Robin got a stellar launch in his 2nd attempt of the weekend, but all the same, it has ended with drama here. Your order then, Knudsen, obviously at the back of the field. He's not going to go any further. Jaap van Lagen is your race leader. Frank Porte-Ruiz, 2nd, and the leader in the rookie classification as well. You see there the orange cross on his headlights, which denotes that. Nick Ho in third position for PG Motorsport. Niels Langeveld in fourth place, ahead of Milan Marchak, who's second among the rookies and fifth overall. Alexander Ryman in sixth, Yongejan in seventh. The Lithuanian racer Tomas Rodonis in eighth place, Nikola Milkevich in 10th, Mace Muller third among the rookies in 10th overall. Jules Grau in 11th place. He is now in the lead of the Pro-Am class. I did mention that I thought he might soon storm up to the lead of Pro-Am, and that is exactly what's happened. The 77 car for Team Race Art is now 11th overall and leading in Pro-Am. Grau, who, of course, kind of extends the partnership between the Grau family and Race Art. Those colours may be familiar to long-time viewers of Dutch motorsport, of course. The exact same livery, effectively, on Jules Grau's Porsche was once adorned to a Dodge Viper, SRT Viper, in the Supercar Challenge Series. His father, Roger, racing that car at the time. A family with a lot of history in Dutch motorsport. So no further information in regard to that Van Lagen-Knutsen collision. The most recent bulletin in regard to it is that it was noted. We'll have to see if any decisions are made, and indeed if those decisions come during the race. Now, we saw there as we went through turn 3 that the crane had picked up and indeed removed Knutsen. That could mean that we're back to green flag this time by. But it does mean that almost certainly we will be back racing before too long. And indeed, the safety car is now confirmed to be heading in this lap. So we will be back to action. And for Frank Porte Ruiz, he's back in that second position. He's where he was yesterday. And towards the end of the race yesterday, he really started making up time against Van Lagen. I was on the fence as to whether Van Lagen was managing a problem or whether he was simply just easing the car home. But one way or the other, Porte Ruiz was really the only driver matching the race pace of Van Lagen yesterday. So I think we're in for a very compelling scrap. Youth versus experience. Now, yesterday, Van Lagen was very quick to get the race back underway. I wouldn't mind betting he puts the hammer down here before turn 13. In fact, no. He's waiting a little bit longer than he did for yesterday's race restart. When will he pull the trigger? I think everyone's expecting it. And finally, Van Lagen strikes. He, I think, gained himself a car length or so there. Porte Ruiz wasn't quite as quick on the trigger as the 69 car in the lead. Ho, Lagerveld and Marchak rounding out the top 5 as we return to green flag racing. Oh, and a look to the inside there from Ryman, and it's not gone well at all. Way too ambitious there. And unfortunately, Porte Ruiz gets tagged as we get confirmation of Jaap Van Lagen owing us a drive-through penalty. His primary competition, Frank Porte Ruiz, has just been thrown off the circuit. And he's angry now. He'll be furious when he finds out that he could have inherited the lead from Jaap Van Lagen. At least one busted radiator there. I think on Ryman's car. But Ryman there was just trying to brave it out on the brakes. I think just missed his braking marker slightly. But all it takes is being about 10 metres late on the brakes and you arrive at that apex way too quickly. Unfortunately, Porte Ruiz, an innocent bystander there, and indeed Alexander Ryman's radiator has seen better days. Safety car deployed once again. Both cars looking unlikely to go any further. Let's have a look at this again. Ryman trying to get around Marczak there. They were both very, very brave indeed. Marczak was collided with also, but I think his car might be okay. All the same, it's hugely unfortunate, but the real story, as Porte Ruiz makes his thinking incredibly clear. Some vicious-looking words being delivered, and understandably so. But the real interesting story here is that Jaap van Lagen is to serve a drive-through penalty. That means that the race lead battle is going to be thrown way up into the air. And in amongst all of that, Sam Yongejan is up to 3rd place. Thomas Rodenis is up to 4th place. Once Van Lagen serves his drive-through, those guys are going to be all the way up into the podium places. Yongejan, of course, will inherit 2nd. Rodenis will inherit 3rd once Van Lagen makes his drive-through. It's been a dramatic race to this point in the Porsche Carrera Cup Benelux, and we're not yet at half distance. Yongejan, who started this race in 8th, I'll remind you, now running in 3rd place, set to turn into 2nd position once Jaap van Lagen serves a drive-through penalty for colliding with Robin Knudsen. We've received confirmation, incidentally, that Ryman and Porte Ruiz's collision will be investigated post-race, since both cars are retired. No point really looking into that one now. I do feel for Porte Ruiz, though. The drive-through penalty confirmation came as his car was sliding to the runoff area after that collision. And how unfortunate it is. If he'd managed to avoid that one way or the other, he would be set to inherit a race lead and potentially a shot at a first victory. Of course, for Niels Langeveld, this now creates a compelling situation with the 2 drivers ahead of him in the standings being Jaap van Lagen and Robin Knudsen. Knudsen's out of the race. Van Lagen is more than likely going to drop to the very rear of the field once he serves the drive-through. Langeveld could end up leaping 4th in the championship battle. Coming into this weekend, or coming into today's race, I should say, Van Lagen provisionally on 97 points, Knudsen on 88, Langeveld on 76. Langeveld could at the very least leapfrog Robin Knudsen here. He's on course to do so. And Van Lagen would need to make up some places from the rear of the field in order to retain that lead. Langeveld is going to have a big swing so long as he stays clean with the way this race has gone so far, though. The order does not feel secure in the slightest. Anything could happen in what's left of this motor race. And anything may well. Good opportunity this for Yongejan as well. The first win last time out in Zandvoort was an emotional affair for him and his family and the Team Race Art squad. Has he got the pace to try and usurp Langeveld. He looked really fast in race pace yesterday. Didn't really sew together a quick lap in qualifying. But in the race, the car seemed to be very much alive underneath him. So I imagine Van Lagen is going to stay out as long as he can here to try and spread out the field a bit behind him. But we know he's got that drive-through penalty. Which is yet to be served. For now, though, Van Lagen is the race leader, and he's managed to build himself a couple of car lengths again there off the restart. Langeveld is going to come under threat and scrutiny here from Yongejan and Raudenis and Nick Ho. You see there Langeveld going defensive into the first corner as we're back to green flag conditions again. Van Lagen runs it a bit deep into the first corner while Langeveld and Yongejan get a little too close to comfort there at the apex. Worth noting as well that with Porto Ruiz out of this race, Milan Marczak in 6th overall is now your rookie class leader. Second among the rookies, Mace Muller in 8th position, who we see there running very wide at the back of shot, coming out of turn 3. Everyone running it wide there at the top of the hill at turn 4. Of course, these Michelin tyres will be still fairly fresh with 2 safety car periods during this race. I don't think there'll be much in the way of performance fall-off before the end of the race. Tyre wear here at the Hungaroring is often a consideration with the fast-flowing nature of some sections of this circuit and indeed the, at least at this time of year, significant air temperature. We're once again knocking on the door of 30 degrees Celsius here today. Looking to the inside there further back was Tuamala. In fact, no, that was Schlickenmeyer trying to get past Kakala. Running wide there was Langeveld, and that's allowed Yongejan through into second place. Niels Langeveld drifted wide there at turn 13. And Yongejan is up into second place. Jaap Van Lagen is your race leader. We know, though, that he has a drive-through penalty to serve. Oh, and off the circuit has gone Schlickenmeyer, tyre down on the Kurt Ecker Motorsport car. We saw him trying to get around Kakala previously. Langeveld, meanwhile, now having to defend against Raudenis here for third position. Langeveld went deep into turn 13. It doesn't look like he's got that much confidence underneath him right now. Look at how Yongejan has disappeared away from the front of the 10 car. This is a golden opportunity for him. He's going to be willing, Jaap Van Lagen, to hurry up and serve that drive-through so he can make it official and lead the race. Again, Van Lagen will extend it as far as possible, but I really don't think he can avoid being last. He'll only have a few laps to serve that penalty, and there we see a little bit more of what happened. It was the Q1 track racing car of Alexandra Voteva that was involved with Schlickenmeyer there. So Voteva, unfortunately, with a collision there. She's still running, and it looks like her car is still on the pace, so no damage seemingly for Voteva, but Schlickenmeyer's tyre down, and tyre down just after the pit entrance, of course, as well, so he has to do a lap on that shredded Michelin carcass. Into the pits has come Jaap Van Lagen to serve the drive-through penalty. Van Lagen in the pits, Sam Yongejan, therefore, now your race leader. Langeveld again seems to be struggling under braking to get the car rotated for the apex. Second time we've seen him drift wide in as many laps. He's, though, up to second place with Raudenis in third position. We didn't see Van Lagen in the pits, but he is now exiting, and he's down to 12th place. Schlickenmeyer, of course, still behind him because he's limping around the circuit with the puncture, but Van Lagen now at the very rear of those who haven't had damage to their cars. Yongejan then, our race leader. It was Zandvoort Race 2 where he claimed his first win in the series. And it was a distinctly different weekend. Very wet conditions greeted the Porsche Carrera Cup Benelux at Zandvoort on Sunday. But a month later, on another Sunday, here in the Hungaroring, Yongejan is on his way in the lead of the race and looking very strong. We see there Schlickenmeyer still on the recovery back to pit lane, showing maturity beyond his years there to firstly avoid getting in the way of everybody, but also just the conservative approach he's taking to get back to the pit lane. In such a short race, it's fruitless to hurry back and quite possibly rip pieces off the car with the delaminating tyre. A little bit of a wide exit there for Milan Marchak. That could open up the door a little bit for Nick Ho as they fight it out for 4th overall. Marchak, the leader in the rookie class. Mace Muller in 7th overall is second among the rookies and having a jolly good motor race. Mace Muller, who was last year's Porsche Sprint Challenge Benelux Cayman GT4 RS champion, so moved up from the GT4 into the 992 Cup car for this year after winning the championship in Sprint Challenge Benelux. Also went down to Southern Europe for the Porsche Sprint Challenge Southern Europe, the winter events down there, and got to grips with the 992 GT3 Cup car there, and that experience starting to pay off with some of his results here in Carrera Cup Benelux. Five minutes plus 1 lap left on the clock here for Yongejan, who will really put himself up the point standings as well, bring himself further into the battle. The number 10 and the number 5 running in tandem here for second place, Langeveld and Raudenis. Now Yongejan finished 5th yesterday from 8th on the grid. Gained himself 11 points for that. Oh, goodness me, Marchak was running wide there out of turn 3. But Yongejan will have come into today's race on 68 points. And with a full haul of 25, 68 would of course become 93, and he'll be right up there. I think he will leapfrog Knudsen and move up to 3rd in the standings. Meanwhile, Raudenis is looking to claim this 2nd position. The body language on the Lithuanian's car is certainly looking a little bit aggressive. He's driving the wheels off his machine at the moment. The Team GP Elite entered number 5. Was 9th in last year's standings and leaned on experience from racing Porsches in the Baltic region previously. He's yet to score a podium in Porsche Carrera Cup Benelux. His best result was 4th, which he achieved twice this year. So as it stands, he's already on course for his best ever result, and he feels he's not done yet with Langeveld right in front of him. That said, given what we saw a lap ago here at turn 3, it's quite clear that Milan Marchak is pushing as well. So if Langeveld and Raudenis start to fight for this second place, you can't rule out Milan Marchak sneaking 4th to try and get involved in the scrap as well. Jaap van Lagen running in 12th position after the penalty. He is actually starting to close in on the rear of the field, so he could salvage some points here. He's 1.1 seconds back, in fact half a second back at the first sector split from Alexandra Vateva. Her Q1 track racing Porsche might be slightly wounded after that collision with Schlickenmeyer a few laps ago. But Van Lagen may yet work his way back to the top 10 here, if he can efficiently get past Vateva and then close in on Jani Kakala. Little consolation, but given he is going to be fighting for the championship, and given I suspect that championship fight might be a bit more intense now, given the events of the day with his competition, well, one member of his competition, Robin Knudsen, I think any point is going to count going into the second half of the season. We are going to reach the halfway point of the calendar at the conclusion of this race. Langeveld could certainly do with getting the points for second place, especially with Sam Yongejan knocking on the door of stealing 3rd in the championship away from him. But Raudenis would like to play spoiler here. Will an opportunity beckon for him? This will be the penultimate lap of the race. We will tick down to 0 this time. And then there will be a further lap after that, so effectively 2 to go here at the Hungaroring. Can Raudenis close in enough to make a move? Don't think he'll do anything that one would consider a low percentage move. He'll only go for that second place if a proper opportunity arises. He won't want to jeopardise that first podium here in Carrera Cup Benelux. Milan Marchak would very much enjoy inheriting any further positions, but I think he's a bit too far back. His best finish of the season prior to this weekend has been 6th place overall. He claimed 2 rookie wins at the start of the season at Spa. He's going to claim a 3rd rookie win of the year this time, which I think will push him back into the lead of the rookie championship. But as it stands, that 4th position for Marchak will be his best finish in the series. Meanwhile, Sam Yongejan onto the final lap of the race. He did it in the wet conditions, and while a lot has happened to get him here, he is now pulling off the same feat on a sunny Sunday here at the Hungaroring. He started this race in 8th position, Sam Yongejan. He'd have been hoping for a top 5, which he achieved yesterday. Maybe a podium if he was lucky. I don't think even Sam Yongejan envisioned having a 3.7 second lead. 2.7 second lead, sorry. He wouldn't have seen this one coming, but things have unfolded in such a way. Van Lagen and Knudsen having their collision early doors. Then there was the drama at turn 1 after Alexander Ryman had a problem, just missing his braking point. And everything has just unfolded in favour of the number 65 driver. Car 11, Nikola Milkovic, 6th overall, has received a 5-second time penalty for leaving the track and gaining an advantage, so he will fall down the order. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, Sam Yongejan has driven a fabulous race, and from row 4 of the grid, he will stand on the top step of the podium. What a race from Sam Yongejan, his second win of the season, his second win in Carrera Cup Benelux. And again, I'm sure his team, his family, will be elated. That second win, I feel, confirms him as a player in the championship battle for the remainder of this year. Langeveld taking second, Raudenis taking third. Milan Marchak, the rookie class winner, in 4th place. Nick Ho in 5th position. Mace Muller in 6th. Then it was Nikola Milkovic, classified 7th with that penalty added to his time. Jules Grau, meanwhile, in 8th overall, winning the Pro-Am standings. A good result there for Jules from the back of the field. To Amala in 9th and Kakala rounding out the Pro-Am podium as well as the overall top 10. But Sam Yongejan, the second time this year, takes a 65 car to the top. And he can be very satisfied with his performance. It was raw emotion upon his first victory at Zandvoort. I think a month later, a second win. It won't become old hat by any means, but I think this time the win will come with a little bit of confidence, a little bit of, well, I know I can do that, and I've done it again. Yongejan, Langeveld and Raudenis, your top 3. Marchak, Nico, Mace Muller, Nikola Milkovic, Jules Grau and Henri Tuamala ahead of Yanni Kakala to round out your top 10. Jaap van Lagen got up to 11th place. Alexandra Vatova in 12th position. Schlickenmeyer in 13th. And then the rest of the field will be DNFs. Porte Ruiz, of course, in that collision with Alexander Ryman. Unfortunately, not getting to the checkered flag. What an opportunity it could have been for the Andorran driver today if he'd reached the finish. And Robin Knutsen, an early DNF as well, that first safety car period to collect him, of course, after the early collision with Jaap van Lagen. So with a 11th place finish, Van Lagen will score 5 points. That'll bring him to 102 in the standings. He will still be the championship leader by my maths, but certainly not the day he had projected. Not the day this man was expecting either, I'd wager. But Sam Yongejan, not the first time he's done that dance this weekend, I think, according to the Instagram for Porsche Carrera Cup Benelux. But this young man very quickly coming of age in this series. He was 6th overall last year with 2 podiums. But this season, he's looking really impressive. We've known for a while that he would get better and better. He was a Mazda MX-5 champion in the Netherlands back in 2023, and it's quite clear that Sam Yongejan is really finding his footing. It sometimes takes a while. Porsche Carrera Cup cars are such specialised beasts. They're quite user-friendly, but finding that last iota of pace is something that takes a year or two of experience in most cases. And that's why you have drivers who specialise in making a Carrera Cup car go quickly. Think of the likes of Larry Tenforda, for example. And Yongejan is increasingly becoming a bit of a Carrera Cup specialist himself. 8th on the grid to the win. What a day for him. Van Lagen was our pole sitter as this race got underway. Robin Knutsen, though, got a great start from the outside of the front row, held the inside line into the first corner, and they would be side by side in the early stages of the race there. Knutsen would lead the way from Jaap Van Lagen, who wasn't taking it lying down, wanted to get through as best he could. Ran out wide, though, going through turn 3. And that move, putting Knutsen into the wall, would cost Van Lagen a drive-through penalty. Safety car period for the incident. We went back to green flag racing, and unfortunately, Ryman running deep into the corner, taking out our young Andorran hope in Frank Porte Ruiz. Langeveld and Yongejan switch places. And after the penalty served by Jaap Van Lagen, it was a fairly straightforward run home for this man, Sam Yongejan. Once he got through, once Niels Langeveld drifted wide and allowed the 65 through, there was no stopping Yongejan. From 8th to a win is not something you see often in Carrera Cup racing. But the race unfolded in, let's call it, unique fashion today. So Van Lagen in second will... Oh, sorry, Van Lagen in 11th will have 102 points, as I alluded to. Knutsen will stay on 88. I don't think he'll be classified as a finisher, given how few laps he did. So that's a big blow for him. Langeveld finishing 3rd will get him 16 points, which will put him up to 92. And in fact, I believe... yes, Yongejan will have leapfrogged by a single point Niels Langeveld. So Yongejan will be up to 3rd, in fact 2nd, sorry, in the standings. It'll be 93 for Sam Yongejan, 92 for Langeveld. And Knutsen, who was leading the standings coming into this weekend, will now be 4th in the championship. That is a huge drop for Knutsen. Yesterday, the pace just wasn't in the car, but today he'll feel most aggrieved. It has been a weekend here at the Hungaroring, which has certainly changed the outlook of this series for the rest of the season. We are at the halfway point, of course. Plenty more racing to go. 3 more events, 6 more races. Our next stop on the calendar is Assen on the 9th and 10th of August. From there, Zolder awaits on the 13th and 14th of September. And we'll conclude at the final weekend of September with a second visit to Zandvoort. But undoubtedly, Hungary, one way or another, may prove to be an inflection point in the series with how much the standings have shifted today. I think we'll look back at this weekend and one way or another go, that's where it all changed. Domas Raudenis on the 3rd step of the podium. Great job from the Lithuanian to get his best result in Carrera Cup Benelux. Niels Langeveld, 2nd place. Will be disappointed to have lost what became the lead after running wide. But Sam Yongejan did not need to be asked twice. He leapt forward into the lead, and it's a victory for him, a victory as well for his Team Racer colleagues.
Well done, guys. Thomas Raudanis, Nils Langefeld and Sam Yongejan. And here comes the trophies. Jöjjenek a díjak. Az első díját adom Dr. Bíró Péter, az NSU elnök vezérigazgatója. Ő adja át a...
The drivers, I'm sure, with plenty to discuss today. I think Yongejan will only have some awareness of how that race actually unfolded. Will he have even seen the actual collision between Knutsen and Van Lagen? He was back in 8th place at the time it happened. Yongejan, I'm sure, will watch the replay back and find out how he got to the top step. Sam Yongejan receiving the P1 trophy, standing for the second event in a row on the top step of a podium at the home of a Formula One Grand Prix. There's just something about being on a podium where you know all of the greats have stood. And certainly that is the case for here at the Hungaroring, which has been a huge stage for the highest levels of motorsport over what will be 40 years next season. 1986 this circuit opened.
It's time to use the bottles, guys. It's time for champagne.
The champagne sprays here in Hungary. We have a new championship leader in Jaap van Lagen, who took the championship lead yesterday, but of course was just second coming into this weekend. He, however, has not had the race that was perhaps foretold by his pole position, only 11th in the standings. And that young man, Sam Yongejan, will now be his closest contender within 10 points of the highly experienced Jaap van Lagen. This championship feels very unpredictable going into the second half of the season. I, for one, cannot wait to see what unfolds next at Assen. Meanwhile, we have the rookie podium here. Alexandra Vatova with her first podium visit of the weekend for Q1 track racing. Mace Muller there on the second step, and here comes Milan Marczak with a very good performance. And here is Marczak's anthem.
Of the Netherlands, sorry.
Congratulations to Marczak then, back on the top for the first time since Spa in the rookie classification. Frank Porte Ruiz, of course, winning yesterday, looked potentially like a contender for race victory here today. Unfortunately, that collision at the first corner put paid to that. Milan Marczak, the young Polish driver who had never even set foot in a race car as of New Year's Day this year. At least not in racing capacity. But is now really turning heads in Carrera Cup Benelux and fighting for that rookie championship lead with Porte Ruiz. That feels like another battle that will go all the way here in Carrera Cup Benelux. The champagne sprayed again. believe we'll have the Pro-Am podium up next as well, of course, which Jules Grau will jump to the top of and celebrate a great performance. But congratulations to our rookie podium finishers.
In just one moment, we continue celebrating the Pro-Am category.
Some more champagne set to be sprayed here at the Hungaroring as the Carrera Cup Benelux, of course, will be heading back home. This is kind of our field trip for the season, going to the Hungaroring, but strictly in the Benelux region for the rest of the year, with those trips to Assen, Zolder and Zandvoort. We saw some great racing at Zandvoort a month ago on the DTM package. I'm looking forward to seeing how that finale unfolds. And as for Assen and Zolder, those are circuits with some good overtaking opportunities, especially Zolder. Lots of interesting braking zones there. I think we're in for a treat in the second half of the season. Meanwhile, we see there Jani Kakala and Henri Tuomala on the podium already, and Jules Grau with 8th position on the top step of the podium. Let's hear his national anthem. And the third set of podium finishers will now receive their trophies. Jani Kakala, who of course won yesterday, he was the only Pro-Am driver left standing yesterday because both Tuomala and Jules Grau were involved in that 3-car collision at turn 14. That unfortunately meant that Kangro couldn't join us in today's race. But second place for Tuomala and his Koiranen team, as well as Jules Grau's Pro-Am win for Team Race Art, will certainly reward both garages for getting the cars back out there and on the circuit for today. So